Hi, this is Cindy and Destiny of the Keep It Real podcast, and we are so honored today to have Mr. Pay Per View, Mr. Monday Night, WWE Hall of Famer, the whole damn show, Rob Van Dam. Thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Absolutely. Happy Monday from Mr. Monday Night.
Yes, absolutely. For anybody that's watching, I don't know who it might be.
RVD's known for keeping it real.
Yes, yes, and that's one reason we're so excited about this too. And for anybody that doesn't know, I don't know who it might be. Do you want to say a little bit about what you've been into?
What I've been in? As of late, not a lot of exciting stuff to really talk about. I keep myself. I've always said I'm at least as busy as I want to be, and even a little busier. But what takes a lot of energy from me, because it still requires traveling, is when I wrestle or do signings, which I still do wrestle sometimes, but it's been almost a year since my last match. So I might, just never retire. And then in a couple of years, I might say, oh, it's been 3 years since my last match, which is by design. I don't plan on wearing myself down into the ground or letting my value wear down. I've seen all my peers do it. They want to wrestle so bad that when they're not worth as much because they're off of TV and then their value goes down, they see themselves as being worth less and their price drops down, and then they get booked everywhere and they're not worth as much because everyone's already seen them. And so for me anyway, if I got booked more than I do, then I would just raise my price anyway, because I don't want to work that much. And that's what really works for me. Yesterday, it's been a while since I've wrestled. I do have some stuff coming up. No, I don't think anything to talk about, but the signings though is something that I do, and I just got back yesterday from New York doing the big event, and I think in Long Island somewhere. But the big event is a big wrestling convention, so I saw a lot of my friends and peers and enemies. I don't really have any enemies really, but it was a big show. It was a really big show. I was super busy all day. Always, I got one of the biggest lines, and so I just flew back to Las Vegas yesterday. So I'm still on recuperation mode.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So you have been busy. What I know you told us you've been. Do you have any signings coming up? I know you told us you had a couple of things going on, but
yeah. So next thing for me is just Thursday this week, March 20th. That will be the very first Only Wrestlers Association wrestling show. That's our kickoff, and then I'll come back to that. But then also in the same week, on the 23rd, which I guess would be Sunday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, it should be Sunday. The 23rd, anyway, is a Chris Bay show here in Las Vegas. A lot of us live here. A lot of us are coming in, but it's a show to raise awareness and appreciation for Chris Bay. He got really injured in the ring and pretty bad. And whenever that happens, we all feel like, that could have been us. And we're really, really related to it in a serious way. So we're all watching his story and pulling for him, and he's doing amazing. So he did an interview with Chris Van Vliet, which might come out today or tomorrow or something. Something soon from what I've seen on social media. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say. He's got a journey ahead of him, but already I've seen him go from being wheelchair bound to walking around without a cane. And, I don't think I'm giving away any secrets to say that he was paralyzed after a bad bump, let's call it, in the ring. And at first, Hope was not in the high percentages for him to be able to do what he's already doing, which is amazing. So that's also this week. I'd like to talk about Only Wrestlers Association. You want to go there now?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty big, busy week. I've had some time to chill, and now March and April are pretty busy. And even when I'm chilling, it's busy for normal people, but it's nothing like with WWE where it was monotonous travel every single day. That was too much when it was full time. I don't even know if they're still doing that now since COVID. Hopefully not, but I understand conditions are way better and probably in all ways there. But Only Wrestlers Association intends to be the first fan-ran wrestling promotion. And that's where the idea came from, was wouldn't that be cool if the wrestlers could vote on like who wrestles who, maybe put the card together or the order of it, stipulations on matches, different things, like what could you really do with that? And those thoughts that I had, they were way before I'd seen WWE have a couple of things like it. And I was in one time on Raw or SmackDown, I don't know. But I remember during the show, I already had to wrestle, as you can tell. So I had a match. And then they said at the main event it was going to be a fan vote between myself and Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler on who was going to get the shot at the champion, I think. It was Alberto Del Rio, but and I looked at that as having to work twice, being in it. But I already had the thought about the fans voting, which I was part of it actually then, and I was hoping they wouldn't vote for me. And I kept telling Dolph and R-Truth, man, hey man, I'm really pulling for you guys. I think you can do it, man. The fans are behind you. And they'd be like, no, man, you can do. We were joking because we were tired and didn't want to wrestle again. But anyway, that was the idea I had a long time ago. It's the idea that I brought to my now business partners through a few meetings. We got this idea where the live wrestling shows is like half of it. Also, it's a platform where the fans can follow the content that the wrestlers create for them. So you follow them individually through a subscription. They're all different price. Some are free. I'm always free. Katie Forbes is always going to be free. And the Only Wrestlers one is always going to be free. But as far as the content, it's up to everybody. Everyone's a content creator. And we have the ability on our profiles with Only Wrestlers to do share photos, videos. There's a story like Instagram and there's also a live feed that you can do. There's stores. So like I have stuff on my store since it's mine and Only Wrestlers is my project and I'm putting more time to it. It's the only place where you can order like a Funko Pop where you can have it signed to you and actually have it shipped to you, because I don't have anyone to help me with that. But Only Wrestlers is still at a stage where we're trying to get it going. And we've got a lot of people signed up. I think a lot of people are just keeping an eye, waiting to see what happens. I need to get them a lot more active with it, the wrestlers as well. But like I said, we're just having our first kickoff show on Thursday. So we're at the beginning stage, collecting a lot of followers. We started back in October with the platform, and within the first week, we had followers from like 25 different countries.
Wow.
It was amazing. And now we've got over 300 wrestlers, but we still have a lot more to add to it. And we got to find the ways to keep it active, because the platform is kind of to keep the fans active and give them agenda, something to do, in between the shows. Or you could look at it the other way, voting on the shows gives them something to do, because everyone becomes a community. That's the idea with the association. It's really all of us. When the followers join, they become part of the association and they vote on stuff moving forward for our wrestling shows. And by the way, so I don't forget, after this first kickoff show in Hollywood this Thursday, the 20th, which if you haven't seen the poster, it's a pretty damn good card. We got Brian Cage and Chris Masters and
Yeah.
Tessa Blanchard. Yeah, pop a poster up there, producer.
Yeah.
Good. Anyway, what I wanted to mention was we're looking at the next show, which I believe the fans voted on, but I'm not 100% sure if they made this happen. But it looks like we're coming to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Where are y'all at?
We are actually in West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So
Right on.
yeah, that's not too bad. It's what, 6 hours? Something like that. 6 hours. Let's see.
All right. Yeah, but I appreciate you helping me get the word out on that. And I think people are hearing Only Wrestlers coming out of my mouth a lot, but don't really understand what it is yet. And we're still building up that understanding. And we're still also learning, like I said, the different ways to engage with the fans on it. They can send me messages like you did, and I'm going to see it and respond to it through Only Wrestlers. And also we have a community chat center, which is really cool because all the wrestlers and all the fans can all be there at the same time. So as far as a social gathering, you want to talk to some other wrestling fans around the world or whatever, then boom, go to the community chat center. So we're having fun with it. And we want the website eventually to be like an all things wrestling kind of hub. Like I plan on doing my podcast there once we have the ability to host it and have a lot more facts and information so people can go to the Only Wrestlers feed or Only Wrestlers Association feed, whichever one it would be. And then, keep up that way and keep everybody there.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like you said, like community, everybody have a way to get in touch with everybody. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and as you see, I actually see your messages and respond to them. So,
Yeah.
how rude. People calling trying to FaceTime without asking for it. Denied.
Well, hello from Keep It Real, whoever you are. We also saw you not only had the Only Wrestlers thing, but was I reading you had a CBD?
Yeah, that's old news, though. There's a video on my YouTube page at The Real RVD TV saying about what happened to RVD CBD.
Okay.
And we were getting it going. And, man, we had some really good product. The pain cream was, I don't want to say unprecedented. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but everybody loved it. And I helped develop it. I kept sending it back saying, I want more. I like the that menthol burn, which was a big part of it, and loaded with CBDs. But anyway, everybody loved the pain cream. Problem was, I had a couple of partners, and it turns out they were paying themselves the whole time and not telling me. So I had to cut the ties, and just the whole experience for me, I just ended everything. And so, unfortunately, even though I helped a lot of people, I can't get the product to them anymore. And, I have rolling papers. That's about it right now. Available on my RobVanDam.com. But I talk to people all the time about doing stuff, but I would endorse a product with my name on a royalty basis, but I don't want to be one of the owner manufacturers anymore because there's just too many ways to get screwed over.
Right. I can understand that. Seems like there's a lot of that goes around.
Yeah, it happens a lot. I get screwed over a lot. Like I go through traditionally, I think I've already got screwed over since then, haven't I recently? Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, with Bobby Fulton, which in the end, financially, they're probably around the same ballpark, which isn't too bad. But for me, it's part of experiencing it. Thing is, you're gonna get hurt, and then it's like, do you close up your heart, your trust to the whole world Just like, in a relationship, you get heartbroken. Are you going to never love again? Your dog dies. Are you going to never allow yourself to care again? Is that really winning? Or are you depriving yourselves of possible good emotion too? So I always, am getting involved with the wrong people. But I try to be a little more careful and learn from each experience,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good for you to just learn from it instead of, just putting the wall up,
But about Bobby, Bad Business Bobby might be upset if if I don't go and explain since I mentioned his name. But Bobby Fulton was a wrestler. I wrestled him way back when I was a kid, like in 93, 94. And he is a wrestling booker, promoter, super shady dude. And anyway, I did a lot of signings for him and his son. And the whole time, so many wrestlers kept saying, how can you stand working with them? And I'd say, hey, they haven't screwed me over yet. And Bobby seems like a good guy. It seems like, it's all the kid. But I learned that that's what they do to everybody. And then as soon as they're done with you, then you get to see what they're really about. And so this just happened. What was last year? Bobby shorted me on some money. And then when I said anything about it, all of a sudden I was a liar. I wasn't worth anything. He had to fire me, and I missed the money. So, and I missed the booking. So now I'm vindictive, and I'm out trying to do a smear campaign, not telling the truth about what a scumbag he is. And anyway, I learned what he's all about, and man, talked about it on my podcast a couple of times, and now everywhere I go, whether it's the WWE shows and I'm in the office there or the fans at conventions, I hear all day people telling me how much they love that I outed Bobby and his son, and then they go on and share their experience of how they got screwed over.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody. I've never seen anything like it. There's, oh my God, you know what? One time I tried to mail in, an order, and they blah, blah, blah. And then they blocked me. And yeah, I'm actually putting together a video that I'm going to post on my YouTube page of I have 120, I think, of these. They're all like Facebook instant messenger posts of people sharing their stories with me, and I'm stitching them all together so that I can, anyone that wants to sit there for the however long it would take to go through them all, just to see, because he's a really scummy person, and he got kicked out of church for being a fake man of faith and trying to be a preacher to scam people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But so anyway, yeah, he's the most recent one that ended up shorting me on money. And anyway, I trusted him. He was going to give it next time, shorted me again. And, it's not like I'm not going to trust anyone else again, though. But it's something that I've experienced over and over and over. I had a comic book store and got taken advantage of there. And it's something that when it comes to my life story, I cannot claim that I have the Midas touch and everything I touch turns into gold. Quite the opposite for me. I'm not afraid to stick my neck out there and give somebody a chance if I think that they deserve a chance. And sometimes I, eat shit for it, but that's just, it's never been so bad that I don't keep on strutting along.
Yeah, well, and people see that in you too.
Good.
It's like I've never, like anybody that, I've always been a fan, always, but anybody that I've ever talked to has never had anything but good to say about you.
Awesome.
That he's always a good guy, he's a caring guy, he's a fun guy to talk to, and these are people that have met you, outside of just seeing you on TV. So
yeah, that's good. Good stuff to hear.
Yeah. Do you care to answer a question here for Bishop Straight?
Bishop Straight.
Yes, he said, did you expect the crowd to turn on John Cena like they did at One Night Stand 2006?
The answer is yes, but I couldn't have known how committed they were going to be. I knew that he was going to be the heel for sure, and that was my crowd. I knew they loved me because that was the ECW crowd, and I loved ECW, and I knew I was connected to that crowd. Even the year before when I just gave the speech because my knee was injured and I couldn't wrestle, those are my people, no question about it. But I couldn't have known they were going to be that awesome. And, when he threw the T-shirt out to the crowd, can you imagine? That's a John Cena worn T-shirt live on pay-per-view. Everybody would love to have that. I couldn't have imagined that they were going to throw that back at him to go to that extent to represent their spirit. And when I think back at it, after throwing it back a couple of times, if somebody would have kept it, they would have been pummeled. The crowd would have probably got on that person and kicked them out of the building.
Probably.
Yeah, it was a one of a kind, no pun intended, experience. One night out of 35 years of wrestling, there's nothing I can put up quite against that to say that I've had that same experience twice with that particular energy. That was awesome.
So would you say that was your most memorable match, most memorable time in the ring?
Usually I go with my most recent match as being the most memorable. But for everybody else, yes. And for me, it definitely was the peak. It was my crowning moment for sure. And the reason is because the build-up for that match was my entire career. Everybody always trying to change me, telling me that my style was too non-conformed, telling me I was going to injure myself doing all those crazy dives and chair shots, and that I was going to have a real short career. When I first got to WWE, JR said I was going to last like 2 years if I didn't adjust my style because it was too reckless, dangerous, physical. And, years later, I brought that back up to him, and he said, what you did was unprecedented. And so that word does fit there. Everything about me sticking to my guns, doing what I felt was right. When I did need advice, I used to be able to go to Sheik and Sabu, and because of their guidance and everything, that's what led me to that night and to that match. And I feel like if I hadn't changed the entire playing field of the wrestling scene by bringing ECW back and then being the guy, the foot to put forward to best represent ECW. If all of that hadn't happened, I don't see RVD beating John Cena, wearing the spinner belt, being world champion. So for all those reasons, that's why that's my crowning moment. It was vindication for remaining one of a kind against so many obstacles and advice, unwanted, and against the current.
Yeah. I love you, and you are original. There's nobody that can ever say they're RVD or that they're like RVD. And you've wrestled in every promotion that I can think of: TNA, ECW, WWE, even WCW for a minute, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which promotion did you enjoy the most?
So out of those three, because I started doing TV. Well, I started wrestling in 90. Had my first dozen matches or so in that year. And then in 91, I went to USWA, 20 years old. That would have been my first TV. So now already in that early in my career, I started doing TV. So USWA, which was the Jerry Lawler promotion back then in Tennessee, every wrestler would go through there. It was like the last remaining territory from the territory days. And we were on a loop, a weekly loop. So that was a chance to actually wrestle in front of a crowd that already knew who I was for the first time ever, because they saw me last week. And then after I was there for a second, they've even seen me on TV. And that lasted, 5 or 6 loops and we were done. But the next TV I did was, I think, South Atlantic Pro Wrestling out of Charlotte, and then IWF out of Universal Studios. So a lot of my career was on TV, and then WCW in 92. the December 92 to May of 93, I was in WCW. But out of those, and I was too green, too young to even gauge that, as an adult and tell you and critique or even comment on my time there much. But when it comes to the other three, ECW was the most fun by far. Building myself there, learning that crowd, and just always thought the product was the coolest, superior from my subjective point of view. So I really wanted to stay there and see that grow to a point to where we could all be full time and not have to go anywhere else. That's why bringing that back to the WWE stage was, potentially like a dream come true, because in WWE, they put you in front of so many more people. So that's the most exposure. ECW, most fun. WWE, most exposure. Became the biggest star, obviously. And, it was the biggest experience and most money. TNA was the easiest deal out of the three, because the money that I was making there was similar to what I started in WWE with, but it was only instead of doing 5 days of travel every week, it was like 1 day or 2 days back to back of TV tapings at Universal Studios, and we would do that every 2 weeks. I'd be off for 2 weeks, and then I'd fly in, do a Monday, Tuesday deal, boom, go back for 2 weeks. That was awesome. As far as the easiest contract, it was awesome as far as that goes, which was great for me. I always found ways to better my deals prospectively, and it's always kept me happy. And I always know there's a lot more exciting stuff ahead of me. So I've just always known that. It's always been true.
I know you were a kickboxer and martial artist before you started wrestling. Right. So what made you want to start wrestling and put that inside of wrestling instead of just focusing on your martial arts?
Yeah. So the thing is, I actually got into martial arts because I wanted to be a wrestler first.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I was, from being a fan. And then when I went to my first live show, somebody from behind the scenes put the seed in my head, and said, you should start working out. And when you're 18, you could be a pro wrestler. And they said, I'll help get you in and stuff, which I lost touch with that person, but I wanted to. I had 3 other friends, like 4 of us. We were all gonna be pro wrestlers when we grow up, and we would wrestle on the living room floor. When my friend Robert, when his mom would go play bingo on Monday nights, the Robert Dome would take over. I don't think she knew about it, but we would move the furniture around and put the cushions on the ground, and we'd have a tag team match, and probably singles matches. And we didn't know what we were doing, but then there was a videotape, a VHS tape called The Secrets of Pro Wrestling, where some of the wrestlers wore hoods. That's what we call masks in the business. And they, they were telling you how some of the stuff works. And I would love to find footage of that age and area. But I don't even know if any exists. Well, I have some training in my yard not long after that, but this was after I'd already, let me see. So then we found out that there's a guy in Battle Creek where we were, not far from the Robert Dome, actually, where there was an actual ring. And Battle Creek was such a small town, like word really gets out. Dude, this guy has a wrestling ring in his backyard. And so we went and knocked on his door, told him, dude, we got to get in your ring. We're going to be pro wrestlers when we grow up. And, we wrestle on the floor. We got to get in there, man. And through a talk, he decided, we do wrestling and boxing, and we don't do wrestling. He said we do kickboxing, we do boxing, we do karate, we don't do wrestling. He said, but if you come and work out with my students and give them some bodies to work with on Wednesday, then after all the fighters go home, you wrestlers can have the ring. So that's how I got into martial arts, was actually kind of by going through his classes, his stretching and routines, and his sparring. A lot of it was sparring. And it turned out that I was, out of the four of us, turns out I was the shining star. I was knocking out my friends, and I was not even his boxers, his kickboxers. They had years of experience. I was either knocking them out or hanging with them. Found out I was very durable. I could take some really good shots, and be okay with it. And there was a point where I met this Sheik, and I started a wrestling school while I was still training with Kit Likens, who was my kickboxing coach. And I thought the Sheik would get mad at me because he had a very onerous contract. Everything has to go through him, rightfully so if I'm representing him. But I trained to be a wrestler after I'd already been doing some live shows, because with Kit, we didn't just train in his yard. He did live shows. He was a kickboxer, middleweight champion, and he did shows. And so I was paying my dues way back then. Before I met the Sheik at 18, I was already like helping set the ring up, setting chairs up, wrestling a match with my friends to open the show, and then having a kickboxing match, and then sometimes even an extra match, because there'd always be like drunk people that they wanted to get in the ring, and I was hungry, so I was like, let me have them. And it wasn't like we were at huge arenas. We were at like bars and outdoor party festivals, where the people watching, were drinking, and more of that kind of crowd where it was possible to take a challenger from the crowd. It wasn't, and Michigan didn't even have any kickboxing sanction anyway. That was something, because I entered the Tough Man contest. Everywhere else in the Tough Man contest, you could only box, but in Michigan, you're allowed to kick too, because there was no state legislation for kickboxing. And so I entered that, and I ended up taking second place. And I just turned 19, like just a few weeks before that. So then my head swelled up, and I was doing that, and I was training to wrestle, and I was thinking, maybe I'll be a wrestler, maybe I'll be a kickboxer. We'll see what happens. I got opportunities. Life is awesome. I'm getting the hell out of Battle Creek, and then wrestling took off for me.
And you did get out of Battle Creek.
And I got out of Battle Creek, yes. And hopefully Battle Creek's proud of me. I've always kept it real, and always have said I'm from Battle Creek throughout my whole career. A couple of spot shows here and there before I had my name. I would let the promoters say whatever. If they want to, I think I was announced from Brussels, Belgium. I think I was announced from Hollywood, California, on some small shows when I was traveling around. I was taught the first 2 years, just get as much ring time as you can. It doesn't matter what they're doing with you, what they call you. And that's the way I was taught, an old school way. So sometimes I would be Rod Zat, or some kind of bastardized version of my last name. Robbie V, Robbie Z. The Sheik always wanted me to be the Polish Prince. El Snow called me and my buddy the Flying Tigers. International Patriots in Detroit. So yeah, at that time it didn't matter what you called, but once I established who I was, I've always been from Battle Creek.
Yeah, and seeing now, look where you're at now, WWE Hall of Famer, and everybody knows who you are, all because you paid your dues.
Yep, and I believed in myself, and that's something that takes balance, because in the industry, you have to really believe in yourself in order to feel like you can make it, especially when there's, hundreds of other people that want to make it and take your spot. And you're thinking, out of everyone, it's going to be me. You got to believe in yourself, but then you got to learn to dial it back once you're around the boys, because it's not cool to be a prima donna and walk around like you're better than everybody. You know what I mean? And a lot of guys have a hard time with that. And I was a prima donna when I was 18, 19, when I was I would say 20 through like 22. When I first got the name, I was young and green, but I'm beating wrestlers, and so the wrestlers always don't like that. They want to humble you, and I was always seen as a winner. I mean, it was in 91. I started in December of 89 training, and then through 90, had a few matches in 90, 91. The guy that ended up giving me the name Rob Von Dam, he's the first guy to tell me that he thought I was going to be a world champion someday, way back then when I've been wrestling like a year. So, but anyway, you got to believe in yourself for sure. But, you know, there's a lot of value in humbleness.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell, well, as a fan, it's like I can tell wrestlers when their heart's really in it or if they're just doing it for a paycheck. You know, even in the independent circuit.
And some guys come across, they make such good heels because they come across like they believe in themselves too much. Young guys that like Miz, for example, like when he came in, he like as a veteran, it's so easy to want to not like him because he looks like he made his way up through a reality show and that he's too comfortable his first year in, and all the veterans look at him like man, he don't know, he didn't pay no dues, he's too loud. I just use him as an example, you know. Obviously he's paid his dues now, but the way that he looks and the way that the guys that really seem like they really believe in themselves are automatically going to get heat with the other wrestlers just because we're in a competitive state of mind. And we're like, man, that motherfucker really believes in his shit. You know, man, you ain't beating nobody. I need to show him, man, that who's going to win, you know. And it's a silly male, you know, testosterone filled room that, and that's part of it.
Dave Harmon has a question. He said, would you ever consider returning to Ironton, Ohio for an independent wrestling booking? Local wrestling fans here will never forgive the Cops and Hanging Rock for what they did in 06.
Yeah, I absolutely would. That wouldn't be a factor. One thing that's amazing, I called the Hanging Rock, Ohio police station a few months ago, and it was just a call. I still have to do a follow-up call because I got put on hold or something, and it wasn't a completed mission, but I didn't know back then, but now I know a little bit more about civil rights and police encounters and a little bit about the law. I watched a lot of videos on it and read some books on it. Anyway, the most famous arrest in wrestling history and in my career, and I've even heard me talking about being arrested, and now it turns out I wasn't even arrested, and I don't know why, but when I call Hanging Rock, I'm going to see if they even have it in their records. It seems like they would have to, because I remember going back to court and dealing with it, and all the other cops saying, man, if it was anybody but that one cop, you know, we would have all let you go. We're big fans. And I'm like, wow, just my luck. But I remember that happening. But the thing is, we got pulled over on the highway, and you know, everyone, this is one of those bigger than life stories. So everyone's got their own version of it. But what really happened, nobody was smoking. We had a bag in the center console. I did, and it was really strong. You know, you could smell it, and the cops smelled it, and it was 18 grams in a baggie. And anyway, the cop ended up pulling all of our stuff out of the car, looking through all of our luggage, boom, 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 boom. Afterwards, I got behind the wheel and I followed him in his car to the police station. And we got to the police station and we gave him some money and we left. When you're arrested, you can't drive your car. You know, when you're detained, you can't drive a car. So I don't know what happened in there, but I don't think there was an actual arrest. I think somehow it went straight to paying a fine, which the fine couldn't have been settled before the court, but there was a bond, I guess, because we came in there and ended up using an ATM or something, and then giving the guy money, and then I need to ask Sabu if he remembers this the way that I do. But I think when we were getting in the car that the guy came out, when we're in the parking lot, and said, "Oh, I forgot to take your mug shots. Let me get him real quick." And I'm like, "Are you serious? Like you could do that right here?" Yeah. And can you turn to the side, please? Yeah, right in the parking lot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That seems a lot shady.
Right. Right. If it wasn't for us going to court, I would think that none of it was probably ever even written down.
Yeah, wow. That's
yeah, I'm gonna look back into it. Or maybe the fan that he disappeared, so I forgot his name there. But
Dave Harmon.
Maybe Dave Harmon will check that out too, because that's on my forever to-do list. Someday, maybe I was gonna wait till I write my autobiography, but I plan on calling them and doing a follow through, whether it takes a full Freedom of Information Act, filing, or if it's just them looking data up and telling you. I'm very curious about the situation there as far as that night, whatever the night was, June. I don't know, June something.
Dave Harmon said, "You're the man, Rob. Thanks for answering."
Yeah, right on.
And then Dominic Marino said, "RVD, I love you, man. You're an absolute icon."
Awesome. Love you back.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for upcoming wrestlers?
Man, I don't even know. It's changing like so much, so quickly, from being almost like a mafia family, closed door society, to now it's becoming a work friendly environment, safe for all ages and everybody. And because the world and the wrestling world is reflective of the world changing like that, I don't even know like what to say. I'm sure that my experience still would be useful in some ways. I said you got to believe in yourself, learn to dial it back. My advice would be stretch. My whole career, nobody else stretched. I was the guy that would lay down on the floor for an hour before my matches, and I have to in order to feel like I'm at my best. And everybody else would go through, "Oh, I need to stretch with you," but they never would. The exceptions, CM Punk and Devon Dudley, both had stretch routines. They weren't super long, but they would do it every night. I saw both of those guys do it. I found it very useful. So I would just give that physical advice because, man, if you get into the business now and then you make it a big star 3, 4 years, 5 years down the road, which, by the way, it used to take 10 years to be a veteran. And now it seems like they make you, or you can become world champion after being in the business 4 years. That's crazy to me, but it changes so much that, when it was a closed door society, you would handle issues different. You know what I mean? If somebody needed to get roughed up a little bit to learn some humility or to get a point across or whatever, that was part of business and no one had a problem with it. Now you're looking at a lawsuit, and that's actually in the headlines right now. I don't know enough facts about the alleged assault, but it just sounds crazy to me. But for better or worse, it's becoming a equal opportunity employing kind of industry. And because of that, I don't know, man. I would just say, really what I think is different and what everybody is missing is the mindset. I was trained a certain way to where in my mind, I believe everything I do. when I turn it on, boom, it's on. I mean, it's so real to me. You know, someone asked Chris Van Vliet asked what's the secret to taking a DDT, and I said, there's not a secret. I hold his waist so that you know there's not going to be any slippage, and so that when he goes back, you know, my head spikes into the mat. There's no secret. When I'm out there doing it, it's there's not room for hitting pause and then exposing the business to get a spot over. And you know, without explaining that too much, I feel like today's industry is more about that, because fans who just always thought that they know how it works and that believe it's scripted. I've never seen a script, by the way, except for a promo. No one's ever given me a script for a match. But fans that believe that it's scripted and that everyone's just friends and that it's just could be a fun place to work, they now are the wrestlers and the people running it. And so it is faker than it's ever been, and also friendlier than it's ever been. So, you know, for better or worse, it's changing in that way. And when I got in, there was a time called kayfabe where nobody talked about what went on behind the doors, because you made your living off of what you're doing in the ring. And now people, it's almost like a magician. They'll tell people, hey, I'm going to go out there and, you know, there's not really a rabbit in my hat, you know, or no, there is, but there's a mirror, so it doesn't, and there will be a rabbit, and then expect them to get the same reaction when they go out there and do it after they just told everybody. Like, if you relate that to how wrestling is now, you can see where I think it's missing some things. Some of the magic has been spilled all over the floor. And some of the magic that was there isn't there anymore. I mean, it used to be really competitive. There was a lot of ass kickings back and forth throughout my career, and especially in Japan. You know, it was like you had to, if you didn't want to get eaten up, you had to stick up for yourself in the ring, you know, and learn how to counter some of those moves and stuff. But with all that in mind, you can't go back to being trained the way that I was trained. And I'm not training anybody. But I think you know, like I said, believe in yourself, stretch, and try to get advice from some of the old timers that understand the foundation, the nucleus of what the product now is a version of.
Thank you for that. That was really good. It was really good. If you could go back, speaking of training and how things used to be and how advice you would give now, if you could go back and change anything about your career or how you were trained, or, you know, how you worked your way up, what would it be, if anything at all?
Definitely not the way I was trained. I'm so thankful that Sheik trained me. And it's not the Iron Sheik, as some people might tend to think if they don't know better, but the original Sheik. So this guy was a top box office attraction in the 50s, 60s, 70s. The first guy to do a lot of stuff. And he didn't wrestle like me at all. So people are surprised, because I was known as a high flyer, and he's a guy that his feet didn't leave the ground too much, and he would grab people and stab them. And they're like, how did he train you? But the thing is, he taught me to be original, not to be like anybody else, not to take someone else's spot, you know, because there's already one of those guys. So don't try and be him. And him and Sabu both taught me that. And you know, like when he trained us, it was so stiff and so real and required so much physical participation in us beating the shit out of each other that we respected that about the business in a way where, you know, we're not going to sue or complain or even let anybody know if they even, you know, I wouldn't even let anybody know if they caught me. You know, somebody was like, oh my God, did I hit you with that elbow? I'm like, dude, that was my policy when I was trained all the way through my career. That's crazy. Wrestlers would be suing people, Vince, for the concussion thing. You know, unless their story is, which I have heard some of them say they were forced to work after the office already knew they had concussions. Okay, now that's one thing. But for me and most of my peers, we're not going to tell somebody if we're concussed. We're not going to tell somebody if we're hurt, if we can still work. Otherwise, we're just, shooting ourselves in the foot. If we can still work, then we're not hurt. That was always my policy. So I got concussed a hell of a lot of times in my career, but there's only two. There's only two that I let the doctors know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I could never blame anybody else for what I do. All the wrestlers, they're already fucked up before they get in the business. They're already doing drugs, doing steroids, concussing their heads, beating their body up. Now they're going to try and get a payday and blame WWE because they were there for 30 seconds for a cup of coffee. And I get it, because a lot of wrestlers are hustlers, like carny hustlers, like Bad Business Bobby Fulton. But it's definitely changing from being that shady old carnival-like kind of industry to being something that's much, much bigger. And we're not going to be able to slow it down. So let's just, figure out how to surf on the wave.
And keep moving forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. I prefer wrestling guys that are my peers more than some of the new younger guys. And that's because there's such a mismatch there. Like I can tell as soon as I start talking to them that they're from a whole different time, and what they're thinking isn't okay by my standards, but moving forward, it's like, I don't have to adapt. I'm not looking to have another big run, but you never say never.
That's right.
How about that?
That's right. And speaking of that, is there any wrestler that you never got to wrestle that you always wanted to?
These questions are always hard for me. Thought questions. I think that I'm so stoic that favorites don't stand out as much to me as other people. Like whenever I get asked about, favorite color, favorite movie might change with every interview, but I don't have like fantasy matches where I think about wrestling guys, but there's definitely, how about Owen Hart? There we go. That's my answer after all that babbling. Never got to wrestle Owen Hart, would have loved to, and never will.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic. Yeah, I loved Owen.
Yeah.
Love him. And your favorite, I do this one just for fun with everybody. Your favorite cheat meal or midnight snack?
Protein yogurt with protein cereal.
Protein yogurt, protein cereal.
Yeah. Low or zero sugar on both. Cereal probably has 2 grams. The yogurt has 0. Yeah.
And that's your cheat meal?
Yeah, I'm not a snacker.
I'm like, dang, I was thinking some pizza or some French fries.
I do like pizza. I guess pizza, maybe that'd be a better answer, because I actually do have to beg Katie to have a pizza night, like at least once every couple of weeks, and then I do realize when I'm eating it that it's more of a cheat meal, because then I always think, well, there's a theory where if you just eat everything like at one sitting or one day or whatever, that after the first of it, that it will, it'll go through your system, as opposed to having it be like part of your everyday, where it's going to affect everything about about you that it can affect,
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're going to eat 12 dozen or a dozen donuts at one sitting, However you're going to feel and whatever is going to be temporary. But if you eat 2 donuts every day for 6 days, then it's had a little more time, to add to spike your blood sugar consistently over a period of time, so that you're storing stuff where you don't want to. All right, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked though. Someone said pizza.
For any promotions, I don't want to keep you too late. Any promotions that might want to book you, like if you would take another wrestling, show or whatever, how would they get hold of you?
That is a pretty good question. That's something that I've always done, is played hard to get a hold of. A lot of times I don't even respond to requests if they don't sound professional enough, and that's because I know that my fee is going to be so far beyond their expectations. If they sound like a hillbilly and don't even tell me their name and they're just hitting me up, hey, how much to bring you to Hicksville, North Carolina for a match, and that's the whole message. Like I'm not gonna respond to them because I already know 100% that was not going to work out. But I have a couple of agents, that are out there. Like I got a guy that books me mostly at cons, and I have guys like over the years that every once in a while they'll do, and they book other wrestlers too. Like some of the same guys. Tony Hunter in North Carolina, he could just boom. Hey, I got. Are you booked at WrestleCade yet? Something like that. Anthony from Canada, he's my dude. They can also contact me at robvandam.com. It might take me a minute to see the message, but there's a contact, like some kind of word sheet or whatever you call it. And I have a guy that goes through that and then sends me the messages, because I hardly ever get to it to look at myself. But when it comes to booking, that is a route. And if you can't direct message me somewhere, then you can at Only Wrestlers. You can direct message me at Only Wrestlers and actually get a hold of me. So subscribe to RVD for free. Keep up with my content. See my daily good mornings and workouts, whatever I put on there. We're still learning to use it, but that's what I do a lot of times. Like, boom, hey, it's 4:20 in the morning. I'm getting up, getting my workout going because I didn't hit it today, so I'm punishing myself. Will I learn from this? Hell no. I'll see you back here tomorrow. I have fun with it. I don't know if anyone's seeing it or not, but
well, we just signed up when we started talking to you, so we'll get to watch them more. We're also going to be sharing those things also. Also, do you have like a merch line anywhere? Like your shirts or anything that you have that people can buy?
Yeah, just Pro Wrestling Tees has a really big selection of Rob Van Dam shirts, and then there's one called Wrestle Merch, which is from the UK, and they have a different selection. And of course, I'm on Cameo. I have 3 waiting for me right now to do. That's something that keeps me kind of busy. But I usually wait till there's like 10 minutes till it expires after 7 days, and I'm trying to squeeze it in because that's the way my brain works. But and I'm at The Real RVD everywhere else.
All right. And your next appearance for what was his name?
Bad Business Bobby Fulton.
No,
there will be no more appearances unless
Chris Bay.
Funeral. Yeah, that's going to be the 23rd, and I don't know exactly what I'm doing there yet. If I'm going to be, I don't know. I'll grab the mic, say something to the crowd. I may or may not be signing and taking pictures. If so, it'll be to benefit Chris Bay.
Okay, all right. And if you can, let us know wherever like the promo pictures or poster is. We'll start sharing that out also.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I think I just saw one and shared one yesterday, but now that you mention it, I got to put that shit up at robvandam.com as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
thank you again so much. It's been such an honor to be able to sit and talk with you. Hopefully we'll be able to get you back on again sometime.
Right on, right on. I enjoyed the conversation. Good luck with your training and your pursuit of a wrestling career. And nice to meet both you ladies.
Thank you so much. And you have a great evening. And this has been Cindy and Destiny with Keep It Real Podcast here at the one and only RVD. Thank you so much.
RVD.
Yes.
Boom.